Tainted Grail Fall of Avalon came out a few months ago, and it was all the rage. A lot of people were playing it, comparing it to things like Skyrim, Oblivion, only a little bit darker, and I did play it. In fact, I played it for about 145 hours according to Steam, and I really did enjoy it. But a number of people have asked me what my opinions are regarding the game, so I thought I'd share them with you right now. Now, if you don't know about Tainted Grail, if you've not heard about it before, it's basically an open world RPG, and it's set in Albion after the Arthurian legends occurred. So King Arthur, Merlin, etc. It's set several centuries later, and the world is pretty dark and bleak. It's disease-ridden, there are monsters everywhere, and there's this weird, chaotic sort of magic causing trouble known as the weirdness. Everything's going to crap, basically, and you're playing a guy. I don't want to give you too many spoilers, but you have a sort of special connection to the long-dead King Arthur, and you're wandering around trying to find the missing parts of his soul. I will say straight away, the comparisons to Elder Scrolls games should not be taken too literally. This is not quite a sandbox game. It is open world, but the main quest really is central to the entire experience. You're not going to be playing this like you play Skyrim, doing a 200-hour playthrough and not touching the main quest basically from the moment you leave the tutorial area. It's not that kind of game. The main quest is extremely important. However, there are a number of choices you make along the way that can change things and will have an effect on the end of the game and will make the game feel different as you progress. But at the same time, you will be following very similar paths. You can deviate a little, do the side quests, but overall you will be going through the game the same way each time. And it is the sort of game you can play multiple times because there are different choices, and more because the character build system, the gameplay, there are so many different builds possible that you probably want to try, well, often multiple builds in the same run. But I also have to tell you, the game does have some rough edges and flaws, and I do want to dispel the idea some people have that you're not supposed to talk about these things, or you're supposed to give this game a free pass because it was created by a new and somewhat small development team. As far as I'm concerned, if you want to take that into account when looking at this game, that's fine, but my job here is to give you the facts as I see them. You know, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And this game does have all three in various different ways, to be honest. I mean, for example, the way the game looks, the models, the textures, the lighting, etc. There are some really noticeable bad moments. I mean, some of the armor doesn't even seem to have models. It's basically spray painted onto what looks like a shirt. It almost seems like a game made back in the early 2000s, pre-Morrowind almost. And yet some other pieces of armor are quite detailed. King Arthur's armor, for example. The world itself, there are often some fairly rough signs beyond just textures and models. Well, actually, with the models, things like stairs. There are a bunch of stairs and platforms and other constructions that do not look particularly sound, not well designed, and I wouldn't be using the bloody stairs for fear of them simply collapsing. There are places where it almost looks like this was an early version of a mod for a game. So some of the construction pretty bad. But at the same time, overall, I just loved the way the world looked. I loved the vibe. The lighting was often really, really, well, creepy and yet beautiful. So like I said, it's good, bad, and ugly. There's a whole mix of things going on there. The same is true with the dialogue. I like the old style dialogue system, and there's tons of dialogue. Some of it is great. There's loads of information to absorb. But sometimes it doesn't quite hit the mark. Some of the voice acting was brilliant, some just well, it felt like it lacked direction. There were often lines that were a lot of great information, but I sometimes found myself thinking, why am I being told this by you? It was almost like the NPCs were just lore dumping on you. And that's great. I like extra information, but it wasn't always done brilliantly. However, again, the game has lots of dialogue, and I'm a big fan of dialogue in RPGs. Oh, and there was this really annoying thing they did quite often, actually, where they had an NPC you were talking to, and that NPC was supposed to disappear and go somewhere else. And instead of just ending the conversation and the NPC walks off, the whole screen fades to black, and then it comes back, and they're just magically gone. I'm guessing they did this because they didn't quite master the art of, well, animating the character out of view. And I get the feeling this is because there did seem to be a lack of real life with all of the NPCs. They didn't have that Skyrim vibe where they were getting on with their lives quite often. They do go to bed, they do go to sleep at night, which is good. But beyond that, they did feel very much placed there. And as I said, it was never more obvious than whenever a conversation ended and they wanted the NPC to bugger off, they just faded to black. I mean, it's a viable way of doing it, but it does feel sort of 25 years ago. And I think that's probably the best way to describe this game. There's tons about it that feel very modern, very up to date. And then there are other things that feel really quite dated. And I don't necessarily mean in a good way either. Because, I like the old style dialogue systems more than these new dialogue wheel things where you get like 2 words, but then the character goes off and says 2 sentences. I like those old dialogue systems where you pick an entire sentence and it's got that. I love that. But it also has things that were obviously things that happened 2 and 3 decades ago because of limitations, and this game shouldn't really have those limitations. Again, good, bad, and ugly. Having said all that, you might be a little confused as to how I ended up playing 145 hours and generally really enjoying my time playing the game. And it's because the gameplay is actually a ton of fun. That and the vibe, the atmosphere of this game, I really, really did like it. I loved where the story went. But again, more than anything, I actually enjoyed the gameplay. I enjoyed playing melee, I enjoyed the bows, I enjoyed magic, all the different play styles I tried. I thoroughly enjoyed them, and I went through the game twice. I didn't quite finish my second full playthrough. And I tried lots of different things, and I'm almost certainly going to go back and try something else. There's something about the game that got its claws into me. Again, the combat, it's not too complicated, but it's satisfying. It's also challenging, but not too challenging. You need to master dodging or parrying or both. You need to get used to the idea, especially early on, that if you're playing at the tougher difficulties, you're going to have to run away. You're going to have to come back later on when you're more powerful to deal with certain enemies. You can't just run at them and hit the attack key the way you might in, say, a Skyrim. The game is more challenging, but not so challenging that it's frustrating. Again, as long as you obey the basic rule of, yeah, I can't handle these guys, I'm going to run away. As long as you do that on occasion, early on, the game's not frustrating, but it is satisfying. And honestly, that, coupled with the cool vibe, the great music, the story that was interesting, really just held me. It's amazing how some fairly simple yet satisfying gameplay can carry you quite far. And that's what I got in this game. And I find myself really, really hoping there's going to be a second game, a Tainted Grail 2, because I feel like these guys are on to something, and it's something I want more of. with more polish. Obviously, as you can tell, there are a bunch of things I would like to see improved. But honestly, those are things I think you can improve. Those are things you can build on. The core idea of this game, though, it's really good. You know what it reminds me of? A little? CD Projekt Red and Witcher 1. That was a very flawed, clumsy, glitchy game. But there was something about it that grabbed people and made them want more. That's this for me. Tainted Grail, The Fall of Avalon, is something I want to see more of. I really do. I feel like the people who made this made something that they wanted to make. It's a labor of love. And although I did enjoy the first game, this game, I find myself thinking, yeah, with some more resources, with some more time, and with the experience they've now got, they could really deliver. In a few years' time, they could really deliver a new experience that continues on from this one, but that just really nails all the little, quibbles that I had about it and delivers a much more polished and professional game. I get the feeling these guys can do it, and I want to try that game. In the meantime, if this game gets DLC, I'll almost certainly go back because, as I said, for all its flaws, it's a ton of fun to play.